it's my pleasure to invite on the stage a very special guest all the way from Germany, Thomas Majchrzak. Thomas is a renowned automotive journalist and the founder of Autogefühl, a leading car review media outlet. Today, he will be sharing with us the latest trends in the EV world. Please join me in welcoming Thomas on the stage.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me here, and good morning to everyone. And yeah, thank you so much for your time as well, because yeah, it's not taken for granted that you just sit down and listen for maybe a couple of hours, because the attention span is meanwhile maybe between 0.5 and 1.5 seconds in nowadays society. So yeah, thank you so much for your attention. So maybe just a quick few words to me, myself. I've been doing car reviews now for about 10 years, or for over 10 years. And at that stage, there was nothing like that out there. So I tried to bring like a journalistic value to a segment where you had like the old school stuff. And then you had some new stuff, which was pretty much unorganized and chaotic. And I tried to merge both worlds to be accessible in new media, but at the same time apply some like classic journalistic values to car reviews. And if you nowadays watch some car reviews online, you maybe see that they usually follow the scheme of exterior, interior, and driving. And that's like the scheme that we kind of introduced about 10 years ago to give some kind of chronological logic inside a car review. And nowadays we have like a big international YouTube channel, more with US, UK, Germany target group, but basically all over the world with yeah, over 800,000 subscribers. And this is really the long format, 20, 30, 40 minutes in depth on new cars. And they are also being translated into several language channels. So we have language channels all over the world, which are also administered by the respective people inside the countries then for us. And we, meanwhile, have also expanded to short content, so like the vertical content for the smartphones, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube Shorts. And of course, they don't deliver like this in-depth content, but at the same time, you have like great reach with that. So meanwhile, we have like about over 200 million views per month over short reels. And yeah, this is also a great thing to get some attention, to get some features actually just out there. We don't make like only entertainment, but it's more like infotainment there, where you have like single features or some new stuff going out there, saying like, hey, this is new. And then if you're more interested, you go back to the in-depth car reviews. And yeah, as for electric mobility, so my first contact was actually the Tesla Model S back in 2012, 2013. And it's really astonishing that when you look back at like how long ago is that? And at that point, everyone was going in that vehicle and saying like, wow, this is completely different from anything else we've ever seen. And if you would put that car from 12 years ago nowadays on the road, it would still fit modern needs. That's what's very interesting. And at that point, I knew they were actually onto something. Well, meanwhile, everyone has caught up to Tesla, not in every respect. Then again, in other aspects, they are kind of like exceeding Tesla. So it's going back and forth, like the Tesla stock market course, of course, you see as well. And people actually always ask me the question like, are electric vehicles really more sustainable, and are they the future? And my usual answer is more like in the like of yes, but. So I wouldn't say we're like 100% there yet. We've also seen with the predecessor here on stage that there are a lot of challenges, and I try to be always like in a moderating middle position, because what we see across society and across different fields now is that people polarize. And when you polarize, it's just so much easier to do that, you know? So we also see it across politics. When you are extremist and you blame someone, yeah, you get following and people cheer for you. But that's the easy and cheap way to do it. And yeah, I try to really analyze what are the pros and the cons, and then that we can identify the individual elements and go further. So we also see it in the comment section. They are often like the pro EV guys and the con EV guys, but I have more the approach of like what's best for whom and how we can move on forward from the status quo. And we've seen like a dramatic development over the past years in the direction of Pro EV. And to me, the most important aspect is that electromobility has the greatest potential to be the best solution long term. So there are some challenges and struggles as for charging infrastructure, of course, and that everyone has access to it, for example, and of course also the raw materials. Can we change that maybe with battery development? And the answer is yes, there's a lot of great battery technology coming up, and you have such potential with that actually. There will also be more development of combustion engines. So you maybe heard from the news that some manufacturers have also filed in new patents just recently. So there will be still development of combustion engines, yes. But the potential you have for the development of battery technology is so much larger. So yes, at this moment, it takes a lot of energy to produce these batteries. That is, the biggest energy drawback for electric vehicles at this moment. But this can be made better, or for example, you can use renewable energies for that production method. And of course, the materials that are being used, there are also new concepts that you don't use so much rare materials, rare resources. So this has the great potential. This is my most important aspect about electric mobility. And the second most important aspect is more that we have started to ask questions. And this hasn't been the case before. So far, we have bought vehicles and the manufacturers, they offered something. And then we thought, I like this or I like it not, but I just buy it and I don't care about the background of the vehicle or maybe the ethics of the vehicle. And now with the development of electric mobility, it's not only that it's a change of the powertrain, but it's also a complete mind shift. And people have started questions like, so where is this vehicle actually being built? How much energy is being used to build this vehicle? Like which parts consist the vehicle of and the individual parts? So what about the supply chain? Is there any child labor involved? And where do the materials come from that are in the battery? And do we really need animal skin materials in the car? So is it needed to rip off the skin of an animal and put it on the car seat? And people have just started to ask these questions, and it's not that the ethics have been different before, but people just started to open their eyes and now check and are interested, and then also as a customer want a sustainable product. And maybe 10 years ago, when also some consultancies told companies, yeah, you should be more sustainable, and maybe people said, yeah, sustainability is a nice to have feature, we can maybe do some nice marketing with it. But all the companies that kind of were ignoring sustainability, they have gone down, and all the companies that very early began to put sustainability not only as a nice-to-have feature, but as a necessity and also as a sales factor, they are actually surging and will become more and more important because customers are getting more and more aware. They get more information also via channels like us. And we can give this information and we can also tell them which companies are paying more attention to sustainability and which less. And this will be a more crucial factor to the customer, which then also again will be a very crucial factor for the future of the company, not only ethical, but also economically, like from the economics. So I think this is like, to me, the most important aspect, that there is this mind shift, that the electric mobility has also opened our eyes for all the different aspects. And it's not only that it is accounting for the electric vehicles, but this also has an effect again on the combustion engines, because when the car manufacturers are pushed by law and also by the customers to look into the supply chain, they now start to do that for the combustion engines as well. BMW, for example, is a good example. They started to do this supply chain analysis for their BMW i models first, because like, hey, we're doing these new electric vehicles, we make a separate car line, and then we look into the supply chain into every single aspect, which is a lot of work, definitely, but at some point you have to do it because you cannot control sub-suppliers, sub-suppliers, and sub-sub-sub-suppliers and so on. And there are still problems with it because you cannot control it 100% all the time. But to start this effort in the first place is, I think, the most important thing. And so what they started just with the I project is now being done for the whole car model lineup. And no matter if it's battery electric vehicle or a petrol, diesel or whatever. So I see a lot of benefits from this electric mobility movement going on to the whole car production. And yeah, I think this maybe to some it was a surprising project, but I see this also as a progress from the industry and also as a society. And after all, as a customer, what can you do? You can ask at the dealer about details of the car. You can buy cars that are more sustainable. You can watch reviews. You can check out the news, which car manufacturers invest a lot in sustainability. So also as a customer, we of course have the power to decide. But I think it has to come from different side, from the customer, the manufacturer themselves. They are also responsible because everything has to be accessible. And it doesn't work when, for example, you only have like freak cars for people who want sustainable vehicles. It only works when they also appeal to the masses, and it is very easy to get a sustainable vehicle. So I think responsibility is on all of us, on the manufacturers, and also, of course, on the politics side, that it pays off financially, and then it's also just attractive to buy a more sustainable car. So yeah, these are my initial first sense for me.
Thank you, Thomas, for touching upon very important topics, I believe. And now to continue the discussion, I would like to invite Andrius Šeršniovas, the head of EV charging network development in Lithuania and Ignitis.
Thank you.
Hi, Thomas. Nice to having you here in Vilnius, Lithuania. By the way, I would like to start from geopolitical question. Are you feel safe in Baltics?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I haven't been here actually yet, so I'm really excited about that. And I'm very cheered by the very positive atmosphere. And I already met a lot of followers actually. So we have a strong follower base also in the Baltics. And city looks really nice, very modern. People are very open-minded. So actually, I already told that yesterday. I feel here more close to as you would be like in a Scandinavian country like Denmark, Sweden, and so on. Yeah.
Okay. All right, Thomas, you are from the biggest and most important market from Germany, right? And what is happening in Germany, in your home market, in terms of e-mobility?
Yeah, so the biggest switch was by the end of last year when the governmental subsidies for buying the electric vehicles were cut. Because at that point, first of all, the government had to save money in some areas. And yet again, there's also the thought behind it, hey, like a new technology needs to sell itself and not only by subsidies. So this is about like the purchasing subsidies. There were some for plug-in hybrids and for battery electric vehicles. The EVs were higher for that one than the plug-ins. First, they lowered it, and then by the end of last year, they completely canceled it. And it kind of came a little bit by surprise. It was not like a long-term decision. So it caught also some manufacturers by surprise. And then for a couple of months, the manufacturers did like an own measure to still give that kind of discount, but on their own. Then we had like another like a peak purchase of the EVs, and then it plunged. So what is still in place is that you have some tax benefits that pay off monthly. For example, if you go for a company vehicle, and then you usually have to pay taxes on the private use of that vehicle, and that is depending on the price of that EV. If it's very expensive, it's half per month, and if it's a EV like with a lower price, it's 0.25%. So it still pays off, especially if you have a company car and have that private use and that way of taxation. This is like the main financial benefit for an electric vehicle at the moment in Germany, but there's no purchasing incentive, and EVs are, of course, in the purchasing price itself, still more expensive. And another problem is, and that's not only for the German market, we all also heard it from our 6 guys there, the depreciation, and that's why the leasing rates are also often higher. And you have great leasing rates for standard petrol cars, for example, and then, of course, no matter if private or business customer, you ask yourself, yeah, if if I pay like 100-200 euros more per month for an electric vehicle, why should I do it? Just from the economic standpoint, because yes, there are a lot of people who go for an EV due to environmental reasons, but the market share who decides just by the price itself or by the price you pay and what vehicle you get for that is just higher.
Okay. All right. I would like to touch on another interesting topic about the German producers and other, actually, especially electric vehicle producers. So I'm talking about US producers like Tesla and Chinese like BYD, NIO and others. By the way, this year most probably all of us saw actually in Eurochamp, which been in Germany, main sponsor was BYD, not BMW, Volkswagen in your actually home country. So how do you see actually other competitors among the Germans?
Yeah. So first of all, what I found very interesting, if you look at current EV sales globally, it's BYD, Tesla, BMW in that order. And yeah, we already know that BYD overtook Tesla, but that is mainly due to their sales inside China. So outside China, they're not selling so much yet. And I think another surprise is also that hardly anyone would maybe expect BMW there. They are selling way more combustion engines than pure electric vehicles. But obviously, they must have done something right because, I mean, as a premium manufacturer, to be like in the top 3 of pure EV sales is very astonishing, actually. So far inside Europe, the only manufacturer that are selling like in, let's say, notable numbers is MG. And the reason is that they did this this brand purchasing. They got the old British brand and refurbished it, and then they say, there's something familiar, So that's like a clever trick to do it that way. And they also approach like the low price segment market. So, for example, with the MG4, you got the size of an VW ID3, for example, and with a better charging technology, it's faster charging and bigger battery. At the same time, it was lower price, and that made a lot of their sales, for example. Then, of course, some problems also start when it's about maintenance and servicing, because it's really tough when you are a new manufacturer, and the same happened also to Tesla. Like, how can you build up all these service stations, or you have to do a cooperation with existing free service stations or something like that, and how can you handle the customer service? When you have a few customers, okay, but when the customer numbers grow, you also have to handle that, and that is a huge problem. And sometimes that also keeps customers away from new brands because they don't know yet. It's like, where can I service my car, and is it really reliable, and what about the maintenance? And so BYD, I think, has the big advantage that they build their batteries themselves, and a lot of car manufacturers buy their batteries, and they can adapt it to the car, and they, of course, have so much lower costs, and then can bring the cars over to very attractive prices. But then a very interesting thing happened, what I also realized when reviewing these cars. Everyone actually expected the Chinese manufacturers to have the perfect software, but maybe have some hardware problems or it's rattling somewhere. But it's actually the opposite, around. So their hardware is already very good. Maybe not exactly the driving dynamics that the German premium manufacturers achieve, but the problem is rather software adaptation. So in China, they have often very good software, which is good in level 2 autonomous driving and really quick, and they have like one software update per week over the air, and people are really happy with that. But due to data security laws and different regulations in Europe, they often have to rewrite the whole software system. And then when you have to start from scratch, you see also like the legacy manufacturers struggling with the software. And then the Chinese manufacturers also have a lot of problems with software that to get it going. Then you need the over-the-air updates. But what I saw is that they are really quick in the over-the-air updates. So they take customer feedback and they implement, not maybe as fast as in China because they don't have so much resources for the European cars, not so many programmers, but they're really quick in implementing new software changes. But also the legacy manufacturers, and this is also a thing that especially applies to EVs, there have been so many software problems. For example, especially in the Volkswagen group, they have lost so many customers because just the software was not working, and sometimes the whole system was canceling everything. Yeah, this has been a very huge problem. And I mean, just in numbers, when you, for example, look at the German market, so we have plunged from 18% new EV sales to 15% this year. So I think that everyone expecting that is going steadily further, but at the moment it's not. And I think another effect that's very important there is that all the early adopters, people who really fancied, who wanted to drive electric vehicles, they are driving electric vehicles now. Now they need to be like the next group who maybe like are not specifically interested in, hey, I want to drive electric, but see, oh, this is really the better choice for me because of this, and this reason. Then comes all the things into play with infrastructure and the overall cost and so on. I think that, I mean, the German manufacturers, they have the big problem now as well that in China their sales are dropping because, for example, people are buying BYD or Li Auto or XPeng or also Xiaomi, for example. So this is like a big business problem actually, especially for Mercedes and Audi. This has been really severe. I mean, still with the combustion engines, they make most profit in China. And this is not the same applying to the EVs. And also from the customer standpoint, there's a different thinking behind it because like we here in Europe, when we hear like, oh, Audi, BMW, Mercedes, I know this brand, they have been here for 100 years and I trust in them and this is something special. Oh, and then a new brand, oh, this is just an emerging brand. Yeah, maybe we'll let some time pass by, let them develop things for 5-10 years. And in China, customers are often like, this is like the old brand and my father is driving that brand, that's old school. And oh, and this new brand, they have a startup, they must have had like the biggest tech thing, you know, their new software. This is like completely different mindset of if you buy an existing brand or if you rather buy a new brand. And so far the manufacturers like in North America or in Europe also rely on that. Then is the big discussion, of course, we heard it initially with the tariffs. We're not sure yet like what will happen there, like when this finally decided. Then again, the Chinese manufacturers are coming to Europe and building their own plants there, which then will begin out of the tariffs. So there's so many different elements that are like uncertain or still moving. Never before so many things happen at the same time in the automotive industry and are constantly moving back and forth. And sometimes it's really hard just at this point to make a prediction of what's ahead.
Okay. You mentioned that Germany has already about 15% registrations of the battery electric vehicles, but imagine that Germany one day will have the numbers like Norway, over the 90%. So what will happen if this situation will, be in Germany, and how do you think, is Germany ready for this kind of transformation?
No. Yeah, Norway is a very good example. I think last year there were like 80% or something.
Yeah.
Totally on top. And then I think Denmark, Sweden, more than 30%, which is already pretty high. Yeah, to me, the crucial thing is, again, charging infrastructure. Yeah, my personal story about is that it took me in Germany in a very urban area. I have I have a basement garage, which is shared with like 50 different parties. And it took me 6 years to install a wall box in that basement garage. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous, you know. So the law, meanwhile, has been. Yeah, you heard the whole story. Listen, so meanwhile, the law has been changed. So until 2019, you didn't have like a specific right to that. So everyone could agree, and then just one person stood up and like, electric mobility is devil's work. And then you cannot do anything. And that's exactly what happened to me. So, and then in 2019, the law was changed. Now you have a right to install the charging infrastructure. But then again, there were 2 years of Corona. Nothing was happening there. Everything was on hold. And the strange thing in the law is that although you have the right to install it, and no one can deny it, all the co-owners still have to vote for it with yes. They have to vote with yes, but you still have to vote. So that's the thing. It's always like delaying things, and so on. New buildings already have the law that you have to have a charging plug. Not in the like how strong it is, but you have to have like the pre-infrastructure built in the basement garage. But that's only about basement garage or then own households. I think the biggest challenge is most people just are living in flats and they have the cars parked on the street. So what are they going to do? I think this is actually the biggest challenge. And yeah, I've read some studies that you can actually transfer street lanterns, for example, into charging stations. Not all of them. Depends on like how old they are, and like this could maybe be a solution. I've seen it in some countries already that they do that actually. And they're becoming also more and more public charging infrastructure. In Germany, for example, we often have it, that's maybe also like the other incentive, we often have it in areas where you can't park that well. So sometimes saying like, yes, I have an electric vehicle, I can park better there. It's like the main benefit. And I really like the charging stations where you can just pull the plug, and the plug is directly there, and you just pull it out, you know, that's like rolled in, and you roll it out and directly plug it in. That you don't have to put out your own cable, and then you're experimenting with that. Maybe it's dirty, and yeah. So I think that the main point is really to make it accessible and easy, because, you know, I've been doing like the EV test for over 10 years now, and sometimes I've had so many struggles, and I was, you know, in the middle of the night somewhere, and the charging station was promised, and you arrive there, and for some reason it doesn't work. And it's like, oh, I'm 5 hours from home, I have 20 or 10% battery left, and the next charging station is 100 kilometers away. So what's happening now? So this all happened to me, and at the same time, there are so many positive things you take away from electric vehicles, and I also see the generational shift. So the younger the people are, the more they're like, yeah, okay, I've driven that EV once, why should I drive any other car? I mean, everything, when you switch back to another vehicle, is like, am I in the last century? And also, we heard it last night, also there were some street races going on here across town. And yeah, for some it's still cool, you know, and some still enjoy it. But you can't impress young people with that anymore. And they think like, what is this loud BS, you know, why do we need that, you know? So, and they appreciate other things. They appreciate, you know, when the car has a great software, for example, when everything is working, when they get in, it's silent, they can drive, and they don't have to worry about anything, and make it easier and accessible.
You mentioned that the first actual experience with the electric vehicle was on 2012, something like this, you know, and how do you see progress of the charging infrastructure in Germany from this moment then you start until today, and how do you see the charging infrastructure in the future?
Yeah, yeah. Back then there were hardly any charging stations. It was really, really tough to just charge it somehow. You didn't even care about like how much kilowatt. You just had like, oh, I found something to charge it, you know, and you had to plan everything in advance. You had to check some different apps and see like where is what and so on. Now, of course, more and more apps have evolved, and you have these tokens. But then again, also experience, sometimes you have to carry like a set of charging cards and tokens with you, because sometimes it's really like you can't make that up. You have like a token that, oh, it worked everywhere. And then you have that one charging station where this is not included in the token, that this happens all the time. But still, like, more and more AC charging stations have been built up. Meanwhile, it's about 100,000 in Germany alone, 25,000 DC charging stations. And I think especially like this Ionity network has brought a lot for the long-haul travel, because before that, you should only buy a Tesla, then you have the supercharging network, it's easy, you get in the vehicle, you drive, then you get a suggestion with the infotainment system, when to stop where, you plug in, and that's it. And that's still a reason why people so often still go for Tesla, because of this accessibility of the charging stations, and it's plug and charge, and that's it. And with the Ionity network, I have good experience. They have like a lot of power, the stations, they always work. And when I say they always work, that's a main aspect of a charging station. So I have had so many positive examples, but also negative ones. I think my negative record was, I did a road trip like from where I live, like the Ruhr area, to Berlin and back again. It's like, usually if I would take a combustion engine, I can make it in 4 hours, maybe 5. And one way, like with the electric vehicle, it took me 9 or 10 hours. And I tried to charge locally, I tried to charge on the way. And in 3 days, I had 14 charging stations not working for 14 different reasons. But then again, I also found out later, it's not only about the charging stations, but also about the manufacturer and the vehicles. So some vehicles are actually really better in communicating with the charging stations than others. And if you just pay attention to like what vehicle you're driving and also which charging stations you pick, it's definitely way easier. And that's, for example, you do have an advantage of buying a German EV when you live in Germany, because they had a lot or even more extensive test of the charging stations and of the software inside Germany. And this is actually working more reliable, especially when you do like longer trips and so on, and which charging station work and whatnot. And of course, maybe getting feedback of what has worked and whatnot. It's definitely improving. You still have to live with some uncertainties, but if you, for example, when you do like a long haul in Germany and say like, hey, I rather prefer the Ionity charging stations, or for example, I know a certain company which has worked well before, like the stations from this company, I've got good experience with that. So you have to make your own experience in a way. It's not yet possible to like, hey, I'm the first time driving this EV and I just go. Getting some experience, or maybe like also from, you know, from the web, from reviewers, maybe from other car customers, can be very important. And I think, yeah, especially like as a charging company, the best thing you can do is just make things easier. And like my vision or my hope would be that this plug and charge concept that already works with Tesla would work everywhere. If we can just imagine we're driving an electric vehicle, and no matter which charging station we go to, we just use the plug it in, and all the payment is automatically done by the car account you have there. The concepts are there yet, but I think if we would achieve that actually across Europe, this would really boost EV sales, because once you've experienced this like very accessible experience, then it's like, yeah, why shouldn't I go for an EV?
Okay. All right, let's talk about another important topic which is recently happening, is about the slowdowns of the EV actually penetration. So basically we have headlines like EV fails, doesn't work, etc. Why is it happening, and what is going to be next in the nearest future regarding the sales of the electric vehicles?
Yeah. I think this, again, has much to do with this polarizing trend, because when you do headlines like this, you will get a lot of clicks, and you try to feed a certain bubble, you know, and some people, they want to read bad news about EVs. You maybe remember the time, like I think like 5 years ago, that every time a Tesla had an accident, it said in the news, a Tesla had an accident, and all other car accidents were, there was a car accident. And there weren't so many Tesla car accidents. Yes, the autopilot has a lot of failures, so you shouldn't trust in that one, you know, but it was the main thing, like no matter for which reason a Tesla had an accident, it's like, oh, you see, Tesla has accidents, and it's in a Tesla again. And this was just like this headline making and polarizing again, and I really wish for this trend to end, that we can stay more factual. And I think also this big, like the EVs are done, is just not true. Even, I mean, all new technologies maybe like have a certain dip, and then it's like on the stock market, you know, it goes back again, then it goes up again. Sometimes you also have certain waves. I think we all saw like what potential EVs have, like from the efficiency of the drivetrain and how technology has evolved. Like look 5 years back and where we are now. So there's like so many things have happened. So yes, it won't happen overnight, and we won't have like 80% EV registration like in Norway tomorrow or something, but we just have to probably have like a little bit longer breath for the development, but don't have to accept like this is all done, EVs are dead and so on. It's just not true.
Thomas, you drive actually almost all the actually brand new cars which is on the market, not only electric vehicles. So how do you think, is this real alternatives for electric vehicles, I mean zero emission cars to EVs? Do we have real alternatives for the electric vehicles or not?
Yeah. I've also tried, for example, hydrogen vehicles. The problem there is that there's hardly any charging infrastructure, and it's also extremely expensive to build the fuel stations for that. Then again, like the tank itself is large, and you have to build around. So you have a large vehicle, but still you have hardly any interior space. So you see more potential for that in commercial vehicles and trucks and so on. So for personal cars, it's really, it seems to be at this moment that battery electric seems to be the most efficient and best solution. You've seen that you can use the battery pack as a sandwich concept. It doesn't cost much interior space and so on. CNG has been a solution for some time. It burns cleaner than fuel or diesel and so on. And you have all the different elements when you refine oil. So at some point you also use it for something, but you can also, of course, use it for different stuff. But at the end of the day, of course, long term, we want to get rid of fossil fuels, or at least reduce it bit by bit. Of course, we also have to think about, like, that's maybe like also according to my initial statement, like no matter what we do nowadays, everything is in a way ethical and political, also from our customer choice. And we all know who is selling fossil fuels. And the question is, do we want to support them or him or not? Yeah.
Okay. A few weeks ago, I was in Germany as well, and I drove entire your country. I went through and actually saw lots of what is happening on the highways in Germany. And I first time in my life saw like Teslas goes from like 200 and more kilometers an hour. It was really fast. I was, wow, electric vehicles can, go fast. This was really thing what I'm not expected. But let's talk about the range of the electric vehicles. At the moment, we have like, I don't know, maybe 500 kilometers max range. Do we see in the nearest future electric which can reach 1,000 or even more kilometers on the single charge?
Yeah, so we are waiting for these solid-state batteries to arrive. There are, of course, already some out there, but not like on the mass market appeal and that you can actually afford that. I think it will take a couple of more years for that. More range, I think, is needed, that you can also replace long-haul cars, like the typical salesman diesel car, for example, that you can also do it with an electric vehicle. I think for that you should have like a realistic 600, 700 kilometers of range or something. Then at some point you have to think about, do we really need 1,000 kilometers or 600 miles of range? Because human limits are also there, so at some point you maybe need to visit the toilet or eat something or take a fresh breath or something like that. And if we then have like a quick and good charging infrastructure and maybe take 10, 15 minutes, I think that's fine, So I don't even think we need 1,000 kilometers. We probably should need more than 400. I have a good use case when I drive from my area, like to Frankfurt and back again. It's like 500 kilometers, and sometimes I had like appointments or events where you couldn't charge on location. So for me, it would be good if I can go like realistic 500 kilometers back and forth. That would be totally fine for me and for most others as well. So I think if you have a little buffer on that, that's for most, at least inside Germany, and will also be inside France or something, will also be just fine. So I don't think we need 1,000 kilometers, but maybe like 200, 300 kilometers more than we have at the moment. And then most use cases are actually fine, I think.
Okay, very last question from my side. Most favorite EVs of Thomas?
Yeah, you can't deny that Tesla is still a good choice when it comes to price performance. That's why the Tesla Model Y has been the most sold car in the world in 2023. If you think about most sold car from all cars, not only electric vehicles. And in this year, for example, also in Germany, Tesla Model Y is the most sold EV once again. And still, if you look at their price-performance ratio for the range and the battery size you get and the efficiency and so on, it's still a great offer. There are some things that I don't like no instruments, and the stock columns are gone for the Model 3. And I don't think it's a good trend just to put everything in the central screen. Doesn't make too much sense because you always look straight ahead on the road. At least you should. But still, price-performance-wise, Tesla is still very, very good. Yet again, in Germany, the thing is that leasing is so important, especially for business customers. And Tesla offers good purchasing prices, but they don't offer so good leasing prices. And that's, again, where the legacy manufacturers step in. They have their own leasing financial institutions, and they can offer on a mass scale so much better leasing rates that sometimes people just go for these. So the next bought cars are the VW ID4, Audi Q4 e-tron, and the Skoda Enyaq, which are literally the very same cars, technology-wise, just different exterior, interior. They are not the best electric vehicles out there, but they are bought because they have the best conditions for leasing. That's the main reason for that. So if you leave the financial aspect aside, I also like what the Korean manufacturers have been doing. I like the Kia EV6, for example. It's a good like whole round concept. And if you go to the premium side, I think BMW has done a good job. The big vehicles maybe need a little bit more battery size, because like when you buy like a 5 Series or 7 Series electric, it needs some more battery size for these long haul things we've been talking about. But they have been very successful with this assembly line approach, where they build all cars on the same assembly line and then can adapt to the market demand. That's why for them it's no problem with 1 year going a little bit more down, then another year up again, for example. And the quality and the reliability is of course a thing. Yes, electric vehicles are easier in a way from the whole technology concept. Therefore, reliability will rather go up. But the brand itself, of course, there's so many different aspects with the electronics and so on that can go wrong. So I think what people sometimes forget is that reliability is like should still be a main selling factor actually for the cars. And there, for example, Audi and Mercedes reliability has gone down over the years, whereas BMW reliability has gone up when you, for example, check consumer reports statistics. So I think reliability is something that is a factor that's often just neglected, although it's such a crucial aspect.
Okay, so thank you very much, Thomas, for a great conversation. It was really a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much, Evan. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Really great discussion. We do have one question in the audience, so a few questions. Wow. So let's wait for the mic. We have one online that is addressed for Thomas. Andrius asked about favorite EV. This is not about EV, but what kind of car do you drive yourself at the moment? And what would be a dream car for you?
A dream car?
A dream car, yeah. So at the moment, and a dream car in the nearest future, maybe.
Well, now, since I do have my wallbox at home after 6 years, I could also take a EV myself personally, and I like driving convertibles. So I would like to have like a very nice built electric convertible. That would be maybe on the dream list, but that's hardly possible at this moment. So I have a convertible myself. I have an Audi convertible, which I'm just driving for leisure with open top. I had some problems with the reliability, yes, that's why I was also talking about that. But that's like kind of like my balancing out, just driving open top.
Okay, thank you. Is there a microphone already? Mm-hmm.
Algimantas from Sixth. Thank you very much. You're very interesting. But will we have a new headlines because of EV? Germany will reopen their nuclear power stations.
Sorry, come again.
Will we see the new headlines that because of EV vehicles, Germany reopen its nuclear power stations?
No, not at all. So, I mean, no. So, first of all, this is like, the law has been decided, and I doubt it will ever be reversed. And also, just from an economical standpoint, it doesn't make sense. Even you've maybe read it in news, even in France, where they did like this nuclear initiative, and they now see that it's costing so much money. This all governmental subsidies for the nuclear power plants, and we also talked about that yesterday. That it costs like the same amount to decommission a nuclear power plant than to build one. So for everyone who is like calling for nuclear renewing, there's like a nice documentary of a power plant in Germany that gets decommissioned. And to me, there are like two main scenes in that. And the one is that they go to certain rooms, like with the Geiger counter, and it's like, oh, in this room, there should not be any radiation. That's the first thing. And the second thing is that, like to decommission, they have to measure the radiation of every single part that goes out there. And in the entrance, they have like a size of an airport scanner for radiation. And the whole power plant goes into these boxes of this size and go through this airport-alike scanner to check for the radiation. Then you can imagine how many decades, actually, you have the example here, how many decades it takes to take off that thing. And not even talking about nuclear waste, So yeah, this, I mean, it costs the society so much to run these. Maybe if there's like a super new technology, or a better solution would be probably the fusion reactor, if that runs at some point, But at the same time, you cannot deny that there is a problem that in the night, when there's no sunshine and maybe at the same time no wind, we do have a problem in Germany. And that's especially now recently. I mean, now everything is shut down from nuclear power plants. And during the day, Germany often has too much energy, and we have to not only give it away for free, we sometimes have to pay the neighboring countries to take our surplus of energy. And then the sun goes away, and maybe in the night there's no wind, and then we have to buy energy again. That's a huge problem. But I think the solution for that is not going for new nuclear plants, but to get something for energy storage. Maybe with old batteries, maybe with pumping up water during the day and let it go down overnight again, or maybe produce hydrogen at that point, something like that. So I think this is the crucial point. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, there is another one.
Yeah, hi Thomas again. I'm Tadas from besttv4me.eu. I was thinking that maybe you can share some insights, what you hear from manufacturers in Germany, because you have really good relationship with them. Because like 5 years ago, there was such a hype about electric vehicles. Everyone was saying that in 5 years, everyone will be driving them. We say it didn't happen. And now it seems that the manufacturers, especially in Germany, they are more thinking about, okay, how to get rid of this deadline, 2030, 2035, when they have to kind of stop producing and selling combustion engines, rather than investing into like new technologies, what China is doing. So do you hear anything, or see that exactly the mindset or is changing in the manufacturers?
I mean, I don't see like a trend to skip EVs. That's not happening. And I don't see a trend of, let's say, we all go back to combustion engines. So I think it's, once again, this black and white thing, what some people want to hear the black and some people want to hear the white thing, but that's, again, not happening because solutions are often not black and white. And the manufacturers rather try to do both. So they try to serve a wider customer group and see how the sales go. And I think at this moment it's only the right approach because not everyone can charge at home or on the street yet. And so you will probably still go for petrol and diesel and so on. And I mean, we still see the registrations. The majority of people are not buying a new electric vehicle. And there are good reasons for that. And you can very well understand that because sometimes, as I also said, the customer experience is not the best. Price-wise, I mean, also in Germany, for example, when I do fast charging on the motorway, it's more expensive sometimes than paying for fuel. So it only makes actually sense financially if you charge at home, for example. But from a manufacturer side, I think at this moment the trend is more like, hey, we know both, there will be demand for both, also worldwide. So we actually have to do both. Like long term, most you see like, yeah, long term it will be electric, but no one knows exactly like what does long term mean? Like how long is that? And with this EU regulations, I think there will be still a policy change. I mean, everyone is meanwhile probably expecting that they kind of like dissolve this rule a little bit or maybe change it because it's nice to have this goal in a way, but I think at this point probably it's not realistic that we can really make that by 2030 or 2035. So I don't think they will completely eradicate some stricter rule and so on, but I think it will be somehow altered.
Thank you. So I would like to thank both Thomas and Andrius for a great discussion, for great food for thought. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. And now the time has come to finalize our forum with the final topic of today. I would like to invite the head of EV Charging Network Department at Ignitis, Eimantas Balta, who will explore the topic of whether infrastructure leads or follows the adoption of electric mobility. I hope